Hello, everyone, to all who is tuning in right now. All of you might be aware that for the past more than 6 hours, the popular services offered by Facebook, that does include Facebook.com itself, Instagram, and WhatsApp, have all been down. And there are a lot of theories floating around, but Cloudflare, which for those who might not be knowing is a website or a service that provides live DNS services to a lot of different websites and web applications. So Cloudflare just happened to release this particular blog post on their website, uh, sharing the real reason why there has been an outage that has been affecting the one of the most popular social media services, that includes Facebook and Instagram, but also this basically the chatting application, that is WhatsApp, that is being used by billions of folks. So of course, generally, whenever there are some kind of outages, usually they might be there for an hour or at max at 2 hours. But definitely, since 2008, this has been one of the worst outages that we have seen for any of the popular giants. And that just goes on to show that there are a lot of different complexities that are involved with how the internet works and how generally software is written. So, it can happen to anyone, and that is what has happened. So we'll be going over briefly on what exactly happened with Facebook and its other applications that are owned by Facebook, like Instagram and WhatsApp. As we're speaking right now, the services are still down. Some of them are down. Last I checked, WhatsApp is still pretty much not working at this point of time. I did try to send some kind of messages. It's still showing up. Instagram is working for me at least, and Facebook is still down. So we'll be going over what exactly had happened and what are the current progress that has been made by Facebook in order to fix these issues. So, in order to sort of look at that, we'll be going over this particular blog that has been shared by Cloudflare. So, Cloudflare has really aptly defined, understanding how Facebook disappeared from the internet. So, we're going to be talking all about that. So, this blog was written by Tom Strix and Celso. So huge shout out to them for providing a really detailed article. Now, of course, we won't be going to a lot of technical details, but just to give a sort of a recap of how basically internet works, right? At the uh, core and the crux of the internet, it's really a connection of a lot of different networks. Each website is having its own DNS, it connects to its own DNS, and you can think of one website or one web application as one network that links itself to this entire huge cluster of network of networks, right? That is the internet. And that is how the internet routing is able to route that information or that website to other parts of the world. Now, if from the end of the website where it's being hosted, right, and from there the connection drops, then no one can actually access that particular website or that content that is present. So that's what has happened. What I can explain in a nutshell, right? So as the blog says that people are questioning, a company or like a website like Facebook, can it actually go down? Of course anything can. And basically they do mention about the Facebook DNS lookup returning serve fail. That means that when Cloudflare was trying to look at the internal incident that had occurred within Cloudflare, which had mentioned that the Facebook DNS lookup, so basically you're looking for the domain, right, and they were when they were trying to look up, it is showing a server failure. And initially, Cloudflare thought that it might be an issue on their end. There have been a lot of different times when it was actually Cloudflare which helps post all these DNS. There was some internal error at their end which causes some of the services to go down. But in this case, it is not really the issue at Cloudflare, but actually at Facebook, right? So basically, the DNS names stopped resolving, and what that means is that the DNS servers were not able to really catch, these names like Facebook.com, or for that matter, Instagram.com. So they were not able to actually catch the DNS names, and wherever their infrastructure has been laid down, the entire infrastructure, the cloud infrastructure, those IP addresses were unreachable, and that is why it, the Cloudflare team says that it was something like, someone had really just pulled all the cables from the data centers where all the code and all, everything sort of lies for Facebook, and just that led them to be disconnected. So the focal point for the session, that I mean, what the cause has been is really BGP. Now, if you are already aware of the routing protocols, you might have studied this in computer science or networking. So we have a lot of different kinds of routing protocols, gateway protocols. All these are like networking based protocols that are useful, or that are used in a lot of different spaces, right? So the one that we are concerned about is the border gateway protocol, and it's basically an ability through which we are able to share information from one router to another, right? From one network to another. And essentially, what happens is that all the different kinds of big routers that make possible for the internet to actually function, constantly they are trying to update the list of all the different possible routes that can be there. So that includes from the smallest website, your personal portfolio, to largest websites like Facebook.com, right? So if there was no BGP, if there was no border gateway protocol, then what would have happened is that you wouldn't know, because you wouldn't really know where exactly is the IP address of Facebook being hosted. So how can you reach that, right? It's because of the BGP, it's because of the border gateway protocol that it's actually happening. So we can, as I mentioned in the beginning, that the internet can be sort of considered to be a network of networks, and all those networks are sort of bound together with the help of BGP, because it allows you to show your presence, your network strength, your IP, right? All of that information can be fetched from, by knowing the DNS record, and that we'll be able to find. Okay, for example, if you want to hit Facebook.com, you reach that IP and you try to access it, right? And if it's not part of the network, then you cannot really reach it. So that's why it shows that it's down, right? And that is why these individual networks that sort of come together to be a part of the network of networks, they are assigned an ASN. An ASN is an autonomous system number, and again, as I mentioned, that it is internet. It's essentially an individual network that gets a part of the network of networks that we're calling, right? And each of these has a unified, like a unique number, and it has, what you can say as a unified internal routing policy. So, for example, Cloudflare has shared their own, ASN number, and this is what, like ASN is what really sort of announces the routes that will be connected to the internet using the BGP, right? And that is what they have showcased in this diagram, how the ASN sort of works. You can sort of visit it for your own reference. Now, basically, so when Cloudflare was doing their internal testing, so they tried to see what's wrong with Facebook, right? So at that point of time, the Facebook DNS servers were unavailable, and they tried to sort of see show IP BGP, that is using the border gate protocol. They just it just simply said that the network was not really in the table. So they tried to search for the IP address of the Facebook.com and for Instagram.com, but really they couldn't get any query because it is not part of the IP table. And it is also like some of the other IP addresses that were there that did show up, but since they were part of the main Facebook.com, it didn't really make a lot of sense, and that's what resulted in all the different services going down. So essentially, as Cloudflare is mentioning, that they do keep a track of all the Bordergate protocol updates and announcements in their global network, and that is how they are able to see, what kind of traffic is coming in and what sites are down and what sites are not. So that is what they started seeing over here. The kind of things that they were seeing basically for the uh, Watergate protocol for Facebook, and they have sort of shown how the activity has been there. And you can see that as they sort of split it further, we can see that routes that were there were withdrawn, and basically all the servers of Facebook, specifically the DNS servers, just went down, and it was looking at whether it was actually an issue at Cloudflare's end, whereas it was really an issue at Facebook's end, right? And that's what really just you know led to the issue of the DNS getting affected, and basically it just started showing up this issue of the server fail. And because what happens is, like DNS, like a lot of other things in the internet, has like a routing mechanism. So whenever we are typing the URL of any website like facebook.com, the DNS resolver that acts is actually responsible for translating the domain names like facebook.com into their actual IP address that they are constituting of, for example 192.00, right? And then basically once it is connected to the actual IP address, it first checks whether it is able to actually use it, and then it is able to use it. Now each DNS record will have a name server. Name servers are also part of the DNS records. And let's say if the name servers are unreachable or they don't work, it then returns a serve fail that it can be seen in this particular log that you can see, in this particular logs that we see. So that is because there is no DNS records that were working, that result into the server fail error that we saw. And basically we know that of course Facebook itself is quite large, so they have just gone and showcased some of the services and how the network was actually coming in. And you can see the list of affected areas that showcases how it sort of panned out, right? You can see that. So as we are seeing, at this current update, there are some kind of B2B activity that is happening, and that is the reason that I do feel that at least for now, Instagram was back working. As we are speaking right now, I feel again WhatsApp is still pretty much dead right now. I am speaking from India, as we are speaking, but it just appears that it's not really working. What I'll also try to do is try to use Instagram once and see if it works, but I don't think so. Yeah, it's pretty much the same scenario that is there, but at least things, some of the things seem to be working now. But of course, as we are speaking, things are getting resolved, right? The Facebook team is trying to look, the CTO of Facebook create a public apology for Facebook regarding this issue. So they are definitely up for it and trying to resolve the issue. So make sure to give this video a like if you have like the real reason why Facebook went down. But that's it from my end. We'll have a follow-up video when the resolution for this goes on. But this goes on to showcase that these kind of things can happen to everyone, right? And the internet is a really complex place. It's not just creating an HTML document and making it live. There are a lot of different things that take place, and this is just one of the things that we have to, So anything can happen. Even the world's richest companies, richest tech giants can face such kind of issues. We have seen things happening to Twitter, Google services, Facebook services, everything, right? We do see these things happening from time to time, but it's just engineering is really complex, and today the world, especially the web world, is really complex. So we just have to live with it. But that's it from my end. Thank you so much for tuning in for this broadcast. Make sure to share it with your friends. And yep, that's it from mine. Thank you.